Hello and welcome. I'm Psychic Medium Roberto, and I truly hope you are well today. All right, in today's case of suicide or murder, I'm looking at the Michelle O'Connell's case. And for those that don't know, she was obviously found having supposedly had committed suicide by weapon, by gun, um, and was declared as a suicide case. But obviously there's a lot of controversy around this, and the second autopsy that was done determined the outcome was murder. However, it has never been officially registered as murder. All right, so let's have a look at this case. I'm going to take a moment to focus and tune in. All right, so who was Michelle O'Connell? Now, Michelle was born on October the 6th, 1985, and that gives us the 1, 6, and the 5. Now, I can say this was very much a together woman, individual with that one, very focused on herself, as well as her daughter, her young daughter at the time. And that 6 tells me about that's family, that's connection, the importance of family. And that 5 tells me that she would have encountered day-to-day struggles. Now, I believe she was working multiple jobs to support herself, as well as obviously her daughter, more importantly. And this was a woman that was all about family and ensuring that her family was safe in the 7. And what's interesting here is the outcome of her date of birth, which is a 12-3. Now that 3 is all about feminine energy. It is about the caretaker. It's about the caregiver. It is about the mom. It is about looking after community. And the fact that she had just secured a more permanent position as a, as a kindergarten teacher, I believe, or at least of that nature, looking after young children, that would suit her down to the T, with the 6 in her name as well as the 3. That's all about mom, 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 caring, 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 nurture, nurture, nurture. This woman was in control of who she was. And in fact, with the age that she was in at the time, 24-6, was all about family. Now, the backstory with her and her boyfriend that they had been arguing on the day of the, I call it murder. And she was going through difficult times with this guy, Jeremy. Now, with that 24-6, as I was saying, is all about family and connection. And we know factually through correspondence with her mom, her sister, and her brother and family that she was going to leave Jeremy Banks, who was and currently is, I believe, but at the time was definitely a deputy with the sheriff's office, the local St. John's County Sheriff Office, and has been a deputy for some time. Now, on the day of the incident, which was September the 2nd, 2010, tells me several things, which gives us the 9 from the September, the 2 of the day, and the 3 of the year. Now, in previous cases where we've looked at murders, particularly around spousal murders or crimes of passion, that 3 always pings. Okay, so what does the numbers tell me? There was a murder between 2 people, so the murder is the 9. The 2 people is not directly related to the number 2, like 2 people, but that's 2 people in a relationship. So 2 is about relationships, it's about emotion, it's about family, it's about being together. Okay, so it tells me a murder occurred between two people as a result of control issues, which is the 3, or lack of control. Now, I would say the lack of control fits with Jeremy Banks in that he had no control in his mind, or would have felt out of control when Michelle was going to break up with him and leave him, and she was already packing her car. We know in the back of her car already was her daughter's clothing and things. This was all about her leaving, and Jeremy felt out of control, had no control of the situation except for an aggressive outcome. Now, unfortunately, with femicide, which is big in South Africa currently, unfortunately, we see on the next line the 11-2, right? That means, or that tells me, a law was broken. So with the outcome 5, tells me, so let's go one step back. A law was broken, a woman was murdered, which is also the 3, and in this case, a mother was murdered. With the outcome 5 tells me bullshit, but apart from bullshit, a cover-up. Okay? There was definitely a cover-up here with this situation. Now, let me just jump a few steps forward, and I know this case happened almost more than 12 years ago. But the interesting thing with an outcome 5, particularly when you're dealing with a crime or any negative or any crime for that matter, with an outcome 5 tells me at some point in the future, this is going to be unraveled. This case will be unraveled. And I know it's already been 12 years, but that 5 tells me there will be disclosure as well. Okay. Now, if we look at Jeremy Banks with his name, he has the 6s and the 3. Now, that 6 is aggressive violence. His full name is a 6 outcome, which is also violence, aggression. The Banks is a 11-2. Now, that there is obviously always a choice with that 11-2. Let's say he accepts the fact that she is going to leave him, and he agrees to it, and they move on, which is a positive outcome. But with that outcome 5 tells me whatever was revealed on that day as an outcome, in other words, when he made his 911 call, that a suicide had occurred, whatever happened or whatever was disclosed about the situation was a lie, was definitely a lie. And this is the case of almost feeling like I'm going to be stating the obvious because the evidence actually states the obvious as well. The gun was found by her left hand, but she was right-handed. Michelle, and I don't mean to make light of the situation, but Michelle must be the only victim or suicide victim in the history of suicide victims that was able to pull the trigger twice. Okay, and I don't mean to make light of it, but I'm just pointing out the fact that how does a suicide victim or a suicide able to pull the trigger twice? So this case is almost like stating the obvious. So that 5 on the outcome day tells me cover up by authorities, by the police to protect their own. And all these suspicions around this case are true. In my opinion, Michelle was murdered. I see that in the 9, about a relationship, about lack of control. A law was broken and a murder occurred. In my opinion, Michelle was definitely murdered. And in this case, which is even a more so worst case scenario, killed by policemen and then covered up by police. I mean, there was even the recording in the when Jeremy was at the back of the vehicle being interviewed by one of the other police from his department, laughing because he had a beer, or he had had a couple of beers that day. Goodness gracious, we've just had a situation, a violent situation where a life was lost, and the female deputy interviewing or talking to Jeremy is laughing because he had a lot of beer that day. Does that make sense? So this case for me is almost like stating the obvious, okay? So anyway, I looked at the numbers and I looked at her date of birth in relation to the day of the event. This, in my opinion, was a murder by someone out of control of the situation, or had no control over her decision, and took the life of a young, beautiful, amazing energy, amazing person of a mother and a woman, snuffed out by her drunk boyfriend, and then mocked and laughed about by a police deputy that he was drunk. Completely disgusting. Completely disgusting. And if we look at the picture, and so there is a warning. I'm going to show one photograph from the crime scene, and I'm not going to show anything hectic, but I want to just show one picture. All right, so yeah, I'm going to show it now. So here's a picture from the crime scene. The gun is on the left-hand side, and she's right-handed. Two things I want to point out here. One, it's interesting that her hand is pointing down. It's almost like whoever lives here shot me. He shot me. Whoever lives here shot me. Now, statistically, having worked in the TV industry and done a lot of crime shows, talk shows, did extensive research on crimes and methods of death or methods of suicide. I used to do a lot of suicide prevention work with a organization in this country called SADC, South African Depression and Anxiety Group. As mentioned, I've studied psychology, or part of psychology, in my university days. Women do not tend to use a gun or a weapon of that nature to commit suicide. Okay? Women do not use, let's say, aggressive weapons to commit suicide. Okay, so there's another red flag. And I know they supposedly found pills in her pocket and the canister of pills from her boyfriend, which ironically, the pills and the weapon ironically had no DNA presence on them, nor hers or his. So that already tells you it was wiped down. This whole case stank from the beginning and continues to fill the air with police stench that a crime was covered up to protect a brother in blue. And a female, and that's why I keep highlighting this fact, a female deputy laughed at this situation, laughed in the face of murder, which I find quite repulsive and repugnant. That a woman can laugh in the face of a woman being murdered. That it's one big joke, that the police officer, whether on duty or not, was intoxicated and was laughed about. And I'm no gun expert. I'm not a gun fan at all. Why was the gun accessible? Let's say, why would the gun be accessible to Michelle? Surely the obligation on part of the police officer, whether on duty or not, needs to secure their weapon in the first place, or put it in a safe. I don't know what the actual laws are in the States with regards to that, but in South Africa, we've had cases where a child or even a partner has used someone else's weapon, and the owner of the weapon is arrested, because the onus is on the owner of the weapon to secure their weapon in a safe. So I find that very curious as well. So I guess, as mentioned, this case is all about stating the obvious, because the evidence is also obvious. Yet the outcome of the day was a 5, which is about cover-up, lies, telling stories. But I guess the good news out of all of this horrible situation, and dealing with these cases, we're dealing with very negative situations, but you want to at least garner some kind of positive outcome. And I would say the positive outcome in this case is, because the outcome of the day of the event was a 5, this case is still going to be revealed that what happened on that night was a lie. When we're in a 5-year going forward in the future, when we are in a 5-year, or when the revelation happens or the truth comes out, we will notice that the outcome of that day will also be a 5. Now, this is the interesting thing about 5s. Although it can be a very negative thing, a 5, but the positive aspect of a 5, if a law or crime or a lie is committed or said, the flip side of a 5 will reveal that later. And I strongly believe that this information is going to come out. It will be revealed that the situation on the day, September 2, 2010, was a lie. And it will come out. Alright, thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to engage with the channel, I look forward to your comments. Please leave your comments. If you would like to watch more videos like this or any other videos, please hit the subscribe button and the notification icon. And we just say stay safe and stay alert.